Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref and the Todd Family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. If you jump on here live here on this Sunday evening, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below. Make sure to give the video a like, a thumbs up. If you have not yet subscribed, please do so and share the video on all social media platforms. Good evening, Kevron. Good to have you here as always, and good to have your comments in the comment section. As always, I always enjoy getting feedback during the videos, but as you can tell by the title of tonight's video, I want to know, was it worth it? And by it, I mean WWE's pay-per-view earlier today, Clash in Italy. Now, it started at noon Eastern time with the pre-show, but the main card started at 2 o'clock Eastern time, and they run them in the afternoon time because in Italy, it's nighttime. You know, if you run a pay-per-view over there when it's nighttime here, it's the middle of the night over there. So that's why so many of those overseas pay-per-views start in the middle of the afternoon. I think everybody knows that, though, but just in case you don't, I wanted to tell everybody why they have them in the afternoon time when they're in Italy and Saudi Arabia and places like that. But I was just curious if you think it's worth it, because I told a friend of mine earlier in the week, I said, man, you know what? If I didn't talk wrestling on my YouTube channel, and then once a week, usually every once in a while we'll skip a week because we're both so busy, but I do a podcast over on the Greenville Sports Media YouTube page with my man JJ, and it's called Wrestling and Racing. And believe it or not, on that channel, all we talk is wrestling and racing. And if it wasn't for that and me talking about it on here, I don't know that I would watch any kind of wrestling right now. To me, any kind of wrestling on a scale of 1 to 10 is a -10. And I'm talking about professional wrestling, not independent wrestling. Independent wrestling's always been better than the big time, always will be. That's never going to change. But, you know, WWE has been in a funk since WrestleMania of last year. AEW has phenomenal wrestling, but the storylines are absolutely hideous. So if it wasn't for me talking about it here and talking about it with JJ on the Greenville Sports Media YouTube page with our Wrestling and Racing podcast, I wouldn't watch any wrestling. Right now, I'm trying to read about it and watch what I can so I can talk about it and not seem like an idiot. But I'm definitely not watching it right now because I enjoy it, because there's nothing on either one of those two that's worth seeing. But with WWE, it's confusing because the WWE insiders blame all the issues on TKO, and the WWE outsiders that want it to fail blame it on Triple H. First of all, I don't know how you can call yourself a wrestling fan when you want wrestling promotions to fail, because you want competition and you want it to be good. And if you legit want wrestling to be good and wrestling to be in a good place, you can't ever say you want one to fail. If so, you're not a real wrestling fan, you're a pretend wrestling fan. But you have the insiders blame TKO, the outsiders blame Triple H. And, you know, for most of us that don't have any inside info on the company as a whole, we're just going by our opinion because we don't know. But it is that Triple H could book NXT and, you know, do so great at it, and then come to the main roster and book it all, and then everything was fantastic, and then all of a sudden at WrestleMania last year it falls apart. A guy that booked for as long as Triple H did all of a sudden overnight forget what he's doing. But at the same time, if it's not TKO, who else could it be? But now earlier in the article where the TKO Big Shot said that he does have final in anything they're doing, which makes you believe it's TKO, but you know it's strictly opinion. All I know is since WrestleMania last year, it ain't been worth watching. None of the storylines have been intriguing. None of the matches have been intriguing. At one time on the pay-per-views, they gave each match ample time. And now they're getting where on pay-per-views they're having 10, 11-minute matches. So you're charging people twice the money, but you're giving them the same thing. They're not getting bang for their buck, and that's why they're going to complain, because that's like a football game. Somebody buys a ticket to a football game, and the football game is 4 quarters, and you charge them one price, and then they go back, and the football game is 8 quarters, and you charging them when I just saw 4 quarters of football. You're doubling the quarters. Shouldn't you double my pay? If not, well, why are you not doubling? Are you telling me this game is not worth watching? You can't give people the same thing and charge them more. They can watch Raw and see a 10-minute match. Why would you spend double the money on a pay-per-view for a 10-minute match? It doesn't make sense. You've got to want them coming back for more. And you're not make them come back for more when the matches are the same length as the matches on Raw and SmackDown. So I don't know what's going on, but it's definitely, in my personal opinion, not been watchable since WrestleMania of last year. And if it wasn't kind of sort of a job, something I do, I wouldn't do it now. It's not a job as in I get paid for it. No, I don't. Person to where talk about something if I don't have a pretty good idea of what I'm talking about. And that's why I always say here on the channel that a lot of sports fans I don't talk to, because they can open their mouth and say one sentence and you can tell right away, okay, they don't really watch this, they're just talking junk. And if you're just talking junk and you have no clue what's going on, I'm wasting my time. I'm not going to go on a podcast and talk for an hour about wrestling when I have no earthly idea what's going on. So I try to kind of sort of keep up with what's going on, just so talk about it here on my channel and the Greenville Sports Media channel. But if it wasn't for podcasts and YouTube, I wouldn't watch any of it. But earlier today we had the Clash in Italy versus Gunther. Cody Rhodes wins the match and retains his undisputed WWE Championship. Then we had the Women's Championship on the line, Rhea Ripley versus Jade Cargill, and Rhea Ripley won that match. And then we had part 2 of Brock Lesnar versus Oba Femi, and Brock Lesnar won that match. It's looking like this feud is going to continue until probably SummerSlam. That's the next big pay-per-view. Then we had the Women's Intercontinental Championship with Becky Lynch versus Sol Ruka, and Sol Ruka wins that match. And then we had the Tribal Combat match for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Fatu versus Roman Reigns, and Roman to retain the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. So that's your 5 matches from earlier today, this afternoon, over at the Clash in Italy. Any thoughts on any of this? Please feel free to let me know. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. What do you call 100 baby sheep rolling down a hill? A lamb slide. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family